We are CFUN 1410 in Vancouver, CFUN.com. Joe Leary and Valerie McTavish. Parkinsons Society of BC kicks off Parkinsons Awareness Month, and the third annual fundraising gala goes tonight at the Pan Pacific Hotel in Vancouver. Among the guest speakers, the internationally renowned Rashida Ali, who, of course, has traveled the world. She is there to create awareness and give encouragement and hope to families struggling with the disease. Rashida Ali, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you and welcome to Vancouver.
Thank you very much.
Has Vancouver been on your radar for a while?
You know, I've been dying to come here, and it just worked out perfectly during Parkinson Awareness Month. I'm finally here.
Let's talk, first of all, for those that have not connected the dots, you are the daughter of Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
And I'm guessing that growing up around Muhammad, you probably saw the effects that this disease has, and you decided that it was about time that you try to heighten some awareness to other people.
That's correct, but I think I won't demand tribute at all. I think my kids inspired me more than anything because they had incredible questions that I didn't have the answers to, and so they inspired me to actually kind of dig a little deeper and do some more research so that I can explain their questions intelligently as a parent.
And you wanted to share that with everyone. You wrote a book called I'll Hold Your Hand So You Won't Fall, and it's a children's guide to Parkinson's disease. Now, is it meant just for children, or is it for children of all ages? Because a lot of people who are dealing with Parkinson's are adult children. That's correct.
I really intended to... It's a guide for the children that are like reading age, like, you know, first, second, third grade. However, people have told me that when they've first been diagnosed with Parkinson's, they just kind of want a clear-cut, one-on-one, very easy explanation into the symptoms. They end up picking up my book because it really is an easy, self-explanatory book. When you talk about Parkinson's and you try to read about it, or you go on the internet and you surf the web, you're inundated with medical jargon that's, quite frankly, way too complicated. And I'm a college grad, and I had a hard time reading a lot of the medical books out there at the moment. So I figured there was a need for a book that's easy to understand, not just for children, as you mentioned, Valerie. It's also for adults and young teenagers.
And Rashida, what are some kind of questions that young people have when they see somebody suffering from Parkinson's?
Well, the first thing they say, there's a lot of misconceptions about Parkinson's only because they don't know a lot about it. But a lot of people will say, you know, is there memory loss? Actually, there's not memory loss. Although Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, I always say, are cousin, I always seem to relate them because they're both neurodegenerative, and there's no cure for them at the moment, and the numbers are growing. But that's the only similarity. Alzheimer's as a whole, it's different altogether, where Alzheimer's will affect the patient's memory, and Parkinson's, the mind of a Parkinson's patient is sharp and alert. They just can't communicate as well, that is, speaking, things that are motor skills related. They're almost like a young person trapped in an older body.
And it can be a very frustrating disease for people who are suffering from it. Rashida, as you said, it makes it difficult to speak, and sometimes people will just kind of shut down and choose to spectate instead of participate in life.
That's correct. One of the symptoms of Parkinson's is, if you do have the symptom slurred speech. So if it, like in my dad's case, if it affects your ability to speak, a lot of times the family won't speak and they won't find other alternatives. So what we've done as a family is we've tried some nonverbal ways to communicate so that there is communication, because what I try to do with this book is I try to open up lines of communication between children and families and the patient suffering from Parkinson's. And what we've decided to do is, my two young children are 9 and 7. They love to draw, and my dad loves to draw. So that's how they communicate on those very difficult days when Dad has a hard time speaking. They continue to keep those lines of communications open by drawing and coloring without having to speak a lot.
Our guest is Rashida Ali, daughter of legendary boxer Muhammad Ali. And a Fair to Remember goes tonight at the Pan Pacific Hotel. It kicks off Parkinson's Awareness Month with its third annual fundraiser. Rashida, I want to ask you, is there, in your research, to your best of your knowledge, is there a genetic disposition linking Parkinson's disease?
Unfortunately, there is a Parkinsonian gene. There is a small genetic component. Fortunately for me, it's a small percentage in terms of the whole population. 6.5 million people suffers from Parkinson's throughout the world. That number is unfortunately growing, but when you look at the picture of 5 to 10% people are going to probably get it from a gene that's really not that large. So that's a good thing for someone like me who's related to someone with Parkinson's. But we still have no knowledge as to why one gets Parkinson's, and that's why funding and events like tonight, sponsored by the Parkinsons Society, British Columbia, are in effect and are constantly trying to get people to come out there and support and even give private donations, because this group is a non-for-profit organization, so they don't get any funding. Everything's totally dependent on private donors. So that's why we're out there, because eventually we want to get the funds that we need to continue research so we can find a cure for this debilitating illness.
And how prevalent is Parkinson's in British Columbia?
You know, I'm sorry to say we have 7,000 British Columbians suffering from Parkinson's. In all of Canada, it's about 100,000. Unfortunately, 40% of these new cases diagnosed, you know, everyone says Parkinson's is an older person's disease, although the average onset age is 60, but people are now getting them in their 20s and 30s. That's horrible.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that we're constantly doing research about the disease, trying to understand it and try to find a cure. You can't cure something you don't fully understand.
Yes.
And we've also been hearing a lot in the news about stem cell research. Is that right now kind of the big hope, the light for Parkinson's disease?
You know, in my research, I honestly have to say, Valerie, that stem cell research is going to cure this disease. I've just joined a biotech company. Unfortunately, people are focused on embryonic stem cells, which is not really a good choice, not because of the controversial and the difficulty in funding aspect, but when embryonic stem cells are injected into patients, there's many side effects, like tumors can grow. The patient has to undergo horrible anti-rejection drugs. But biotech companies today now are not even using embryonic stem cells, fortunately for us. They're using the autologous, which are self-made stem cells that are derived from the patient's own bone marrow. So I think that's going to be the wave of the future in terms of being able to find cures for neurodegenerative disorders like Parkinson's and ALS and epilepsy, Alzheimer's, stroke, Lou Gehrig's disease, and a plethora of other diseases that are affecting the spinal cord and brain.
And it's so important that we talk about it, because you're bringing awareness because of your father, but really it's a selfless thing, because to be perfectly frank about the time frame of research, it's not something that's really going to be able to help your father when it does get done. So you're really doing this for the next generation of people who have to go through what you went through.
That's correct. Unfortunately, there are a lot of sufferers of Parkinson's now that, like my dad suffered for 24 years. A lot of people have lost their battle with Parkinson's disease. We look at people like Christopher Reeves, who has a spinal cord injury that stem cell research could potentially cure, but he didn't. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. So, yes, it's going to take some time to get clinical trials ongoing, but I do believe, in my opinion, that using autologous stem cells is going to be the cure for Parkinson's and other debilitating illnesses such as epilepsy and ALS, etc.
Rashida Ali is our guest. Rashida, if there is even a slight bit of silver lining to something like this, anytime a public figure such as your father, Muhammad Ali, is afflicted, it brings more visibility to this insipid disease. And, of course, here in British Columbia, we have our own face of Parkinson's, which is Michael J. Fox.
Yes, I love him, yes. I really have a fond respect for my dad and Michael Fox. In fact, Michael gave my dad the courage to come out and speak in front of Congress. Michael is extremely, incredibly talented with his foundation of his own. He's adamantly trying to get money and funding, and he's gotten a lot raised on the research side. He's given my dad the courage to come out and talk about this illness and to help other people. So I commend Michael in doing that, because he's given my dad the courage to do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, we greatly appreciate your efforts, and, of course, you're appearing tonight at the Affair to Remember at the Pan Pacific Hotel, the Parkinsons Society of British Columbia. If your travels bring you back to BC, would love to see you again. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for letting me on the show.
Thank you. That is Rashida Ali, the daughter of legendary boxer Muhammad Ali. The Affair to Remember tonight at the Pan Pacific Hotel in Vancouver.